Thank you for being here with me and welcome back. My name is Catherine Daniels, and I love to empower people with spiritual healing and wellness. The best thing about Retreat to Peace is the gift of inner peace, greater love, and joy. And during these times of changes and uncertainty in our world, nothing is permanent except our souls. And that is why we need to come together as we travel through one another's countries, creating a bridge, removing all the labels and coming together as one people, finding our home in our one world. And that is why our signature talk today is so important. Today, I'm excited to welcome my dear friend, Dr. Martin. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you for so many reasons. And there's so much energy that you and I share. I definitely feel that. I know you feel that. And we're going to have such a fun time. So I'm excited for this interview with you. So for the world audience, can you please share a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. I am a spiritual empowerment counselor, helping people to recover from abuse and trauma by clearing and healing the energetic heart space with the help of the angelic energetic realm. So it means that I just help you see all of the unseen helpers that have been with you since the beginning of time and will never leave you. And I help you to understand what it's like to be empowered and to feel good about you, no matter where you began. And always the people that I work with have begun from a very dark place, a place where they were abused, they were traumatized, or they suffered in some way. And they are always feeling a sense of loneliness, fear, confusion, unworthiness. And so we begin in the heart space with the understanding that you are never alone. And for me, that was the greatest gift that the energetic realm ever has given to me. Certainly, my own experience was one of great loneliness, great confusion, and getting to the place of I'm not alone. And not only am I not alone, but the beings that are here with me are trustworthy, changed everything.
I have so many questions. So many questions. So we were talking beforehand a little bit, and my audience knows my story. They know that I saw my guardian angel when I was 5 years old. They know that I had some pretty traumatic experiences as a little girl and the incredible journey that I've gone through. And if you haven't heard my full story, you can listen to the interview with Scott Manduck, and that will share my story with you. But as as a part of your journey, where in your journey did this start to develop? Like for me, I was 5, and that's when my gifts started to show up. When did that show up for you?
I didn't recognize them as gifts, but I spent many happy hours playing in the woods, creating little characters and talking away to no one, I thought. Now I recognize I was speaking with all of the creatures that were there and angels and whomever else. And we had a lovely time creating these lovely little scenarios of joy. So it began very early, but I had no conscious awareness of it. It then resurrected when I was in middle school. Our church had us do a confirmation. We couldn't become a part of the church until we were in that middle school grade age. And I remember we were asked to do some sort of awareness project. And I had always had a deep friendship with Jesus. In my Sunday school classroom when I was a little girl, Jesus had my color hair that was curly and green eyes. So I looked at that picture, which is anatomically impossible. However, I didn't know better. So I looked at that picture and said, oh, he's just like me. And he was my friend. Then in that middle school era, I got quite angry with Jesus because I said, I really don't get what's wrong with you. You came once, you did all these miracles, you changed the world and the way people view the world. And now here we are, we're back in a place that is totally dysfunctional, and you've left us to rot. So I really don't understand why you think this is great. And so that began my sort of love-hate relationship with Jesus. I still loved the idea, but I was very dissatisfied with the understanding that Jesus wouldn't come in person to help us. And so that evolved into more of the parapsychology world. We didn't have spirituality at the time. We only had parapsychology. And I so wanted to be able to interact with those other elements. People were sleeping under pyramids, and astrology was huge. And I would throw the I Ching, and I knew nothing about anything other than I was really good at connecting. I was really good at getting these answers. But it was all just make believe for me at the time. And I remember completing my master's program and really spending quite a bit of time in that spiritual realm with other people, and then making a very clear decision to leave it because I had to get a real job. Life was about to begin. I had been a teacher, went back for a master's degree, and now I had to get a real job. I mean, we can't do this pretend stuff anymore. So I left it believing that I was really intelligent. So left it without any qualms and began a gradual descent into hell that lasted for the next 20 years until I just came out of that mental fog and said, I can't go any lower. There's got to be another way. By then, we were in such tough shape financially that my only resource was the library. So I started visiting different branches of the library and reading all of the books in the religion and spirituality section, because along my journey, traditional religion had let me down. It had traumatized me further. It had made fun of me. It had made me feel unworthy. It wasn't something that I wanted to cling to, but I wanted to resurrect my relationship with the divine and with the Christ consciousness. So I began that journey very slowly back into an awareness. And along the way, part of what was required of me was to release the pain and the trauma and step into a place of trust. And that is where the whole heart healing methodology was created.
That is powerful. So powerful. I have so many questions. So I'm going to start from the top. So I feel that a lot of people listening to the show right now have been in some similar spaces as far as their own personal journey. And more recently, I was thinking about how, especially women, we are probably more spiritually attacked because of who we are. So, like, we are the masterpiece that God creates, right? The man of, or the rib of man becomes the woman, and that's the final work of God. And we are the one that gives life, right? So we are the ones that are at this highest level and under constant attack. And I know for myself, when I was young, even though I had this beautiful, profound experience with my guardian angel, and that awareness, there was also this awareness of the flip side, this awareness of this dark side, right? There was almost like this darkness that tried to put fear in me, but I knew I didn't have to be afraid. Is that something that you too experienced? Do you
Well,
remember?
I used to joke that I ate fear for breakfast, lunch, and dinner because that was pretty much all that my whole family lineage knew. They knew save for a rainy day. They knew money didn't grow on trees. They knew that uh, God knows when you'll get again. It was a fear-based lifestyle where you are always preparing for this next bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
And there was very little that was actually lived, very little time when you actually lived in joy. You expected things to go well because that was just what you expected. And they got to that place because so much of their life did go peacefully, but they weren't surprised when something came because they sort of lived with a punishing God. So the punishment was part of the price for living a somewhat satisfactory life.
That is interesting. Like when you really think about what you're saying, it's really powerful because a lot of people have limiting beliefs around themselves due to their childhood and what was instilled in them, similar to what you were saying. And I know I've talked to a lot of people where one of their, it seems like there's this universal concept that someone's not worthy, and it's because when I was 6 years old, my father, my mother, my grandmother, my aunt, my uncle, whoever put something out there that they attached to and never released it, right? I think this is like something a lot of people go through.
And that's the work of heart healing, is to go into the heart, find the place where you have attached to that limiting belief and release it. But we have to do this work with the presence of the Christ consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
which I call Jesus because Jesus is my best friend, but you can call anything you want if you have negative memories of Jesus because of church or religion. But we go into the heart, Jesus leading for this, and he continues to lead because he is very clear on the understanding that no, I will stand in front. I will protect you. I am going to stop you from whatever this thing that you need to go revisit traumatizing you further. He's creating a safe space, which if you did experience fear or you were uh, gifted limiting beliefs from well-meaning individuals, you are going to be afraid to look at them because you believe that's what's been keeping you safe. So when we have this energy of unconditional love and acceptance that is standing between us and whatever fear we have been unable to look at, we can become empowered enough to look at it and say, that is what I've been afraid of. And then you can release it without the further traumatization or scary, heavy, yucky stuff. You can just say, are you kidding? This is the thing that has been holding me hostage. And I will often say to people, respond violently to this thing. If that speaks to your heart, get a sledgehammer and slam that belief until there's nothing left. Put it in a volcano, blow it up, do something so you feel that you have victory over this circumstance, that it can't hold you prisoner anymore.
Yeah.
And then we release all of that to the divine and replace that energy with Holy Spirit love. so that you are unable to return to that same energy. It doesn't exist anymore. So now all that you can interact with in that space is love. And that teaches you that you're safe. And then feeling safe allows you to be a little more powerful, to be seen and to be heard, and to take chances where otherwise you may have hidden away because it hadn't worked out well for you in the past. So love and safety open up a whole new way of being. And if we have been traumatized, and most of us have experienced something that didn't feel good, then that's the first thing you need to reintroduce into your life, the understanding that you are loved, you are accepted, you are safe. And no matter where you have been or what you may have experienced, you are loved without any condition attached. There is no time when the divine would come to you and say, you know, Catherine, if you hadn't, and then ... I would have been able to love you. That is our human interpretation. That may be what a parent or an adult said to you, but there is never a moment in the existence of the divine that they will come to you and say, we find you lacking.
It's so powerful. And earlier you had mentioned that you had a love-hate relationship with Jesus. There's a lot of people listening right now that are in that space. Can you share a little bit about how you were able to undo that or what helped you?
The hate part of the relationship existed within organized religion. It existed, and it not necessarily the religion itself, but the dogma that may have gotten associated with it. So the hate that I had for Jesus was that Jesus died on the cross, that Jesus had to sacrifice because I was so awful, that Jesus had to be punished because I was less than. And then when I needed Jesus, Jesus wasn't available or wouldn't come forward because, hey, I didn't deserve it. So Jesus and I spent quite a long time in conversation where he retaught me all of those things that had been misinterpreted throughout the years or misrepresented. And this is just Jesus coming from heart to heart. This is not forming a new religion or wanting to become anything. This is just my personal relationship with Jesus, in which he explained to me that the Christian belief that sacrifice was necessary because God judged us and found us all to be so unworthy is really a manipulative belief that was put in place because being a religious leader was a coveted position at the time. Very few people could read. No one believed that they could have a relationship, a personal relationship with God. And so everyone needed to have an intercessor, some religious person that they could go to that had more status than they, who could say prayers and would have them answered. And the whole point of the crucifixion was not that we were so horrible, but that we were so loved, that Jesus wanted to share with us that life is eternal. They were living at a time when life ended and that was it. And either you managed to do well or you managed to do poorly. And Jesus wanted them to know that they were so loved, that there were no barriers, there was no ending, there was no thing that they could do that would separate them from that love. And so he chose the most public platform that would get the most amount of conversation and showed everyone that he had victory over death and everyone else would as well. But somehow along the way, it got perverted and it became this big thing about how we are so awful and unlovable that the purest of among us had to be sacrificed. So I hated the fact that I would have caused that much destruction to a pure being. And then I hated the fact that that pure being judged me and found me worthless and wouldn't come back and help me. So that created a huge schism. But when I was able to have that one-on-one time with Jesus, I understood that by giving up the physical body and returning entirely to the energetic, Jesus could be with all of us and create miracles through us. And so he was actually being so much more empowering in his non-physical form than he ever could being in that one physical body. And that opened my heart to fall absolutely head over heels in love with the energy of the Christ consciousness.
That is really beautiful. And I do think that there's a lot of people that have been swayed in their thought process as far as what they should be doing or thinking because they, I hate to say this word programmed, but it kind of is like that, where their family, drag them, literally drag them to be programmed a certain way, to think a certain way, to feel a certain way. And instead of having the experience and understanding the experience, and I say that because as a little girl, that's what it was for me. And anyone who challenges me on that, usually I get well, you have to have this in a building, this relationship with God, this relationship with Jesus, or, whoever you're having a relationship, you're supposed to be in a building. And I would always challenge that, because how can you say that my relationship has to be in a building when there are people that don't go to a building but have this incredible relationship, right? And I was one of those people. Like, there's people in third world countries that know God. They know this, they feel this, they've had miracles happen for them. They weren't in a building, right?
And the whole movement did not begin in a building. So right there, I'm wondering, gee, how
Yeah.
did Jesus manage this then? Because he didn't have a building. One of his most powerful, or many of his most powerful sermons were done in open grassland, so more people could be part of it. So that's just silly. I think we need to examine when we are holding on to a belief that was convenient for those who may have been in power
Mm-hmm.
and is no longer a worthy belief to hold on to. When you create a heart-based relationship with Jesus, when it's just you and Jesus one-on-one, when you are standing in the presence of this love, you cannot imagine that you want to take it and confine it to a building. Your greatest desire is to share it out into the world. And that is when you know you are in the presence of the Christ. You can be in the presence of an imposter if you feel, I need to hold this because there's only so much to go around. In the presence of the Christ, you know that this upwelling that you are feeling is enough for you and then everyone else everywhere. Because once you are filled, once you have been successful in connecting and maintaining the connection, you get filled and the connection doesn't stop. So you continue to be filled, and now you become an overflowing fountain of unconditional love and acceptance. And why in the world would you want to enclose that in a space when it's a never-ending flow? And you are so much in the state of joy that you can't imagine saying to someone, you can't have any.
Mm-hmm. I completely 1,000% agree.
I just, I know my life before and after. And I had a conversation with the divine where I said, you know, if you have to put me through everything I went through again in order to get to this place, because for some reason I've left you behind or have stepped into an unknowing place, I give you permission to slam me with all of it, all at the same time, just so I will remember why I chose to step away from that mindset into a heart-based relationship. Living from the heart is unlike any other way of being because it completely eliminates the fear. You are walking in trust, but it isn't a hopium kind of trust. It is a strong foundation whereby you keep getting answered prayer, you keep seeing miracles, you keep seeing beautiful synchronicities that continue to support your belief system that you are safe in trusting. So they never ask you to go blind. That's another religious interpretation. They ask you to ask them for confirmation, and your role is to just be aware. Keep your eyes, your ear, and your ears open. Be on alert for that synchronistic event, for the feather, for the bird call, for the money, for the synchronistic numbers, for the message on the radio, for the message on the billboard, for the message on the license plate, for all of the ways in which they are going to honor you, so that you will know that every prayer is heard and every prayer is answered. And for all of the people who say, well, my prayer wasn't answered, yes, it was. You were not available to receive the answer. And if that is painful, I am sorry. But the only way that you are going to really be able to step into your fullness is to become available for the beautiful gifts that are flowing to you. And that means you've got to give up the limitations. You have got to say, I don't need this anymore. I don't need this prejudice. I don't need this hate. I don't need this fear. I don't need to stay in this space where I constantly review how I don't measure up. I can step into the space where I'm more than enough and receive confirmation of all of that God is doing for me by occupying that space. And there is no one listening that is not more than enough.
Absolutely.
No matter where you are in your journey, if you're just beginning, if you are living in darkness, you are still more than enough. You just haven't realized it yet.
Yeah. The mental fog that you talked about, that you were in 20 years of this hell mental fog piece of it, there's so many people that definitely can relate to this part of what you were saying, because they're struggling with their personal relationship that they have. And at the same time, you have people that challenge and they'll say, well, I'm someone who needs proof. I'm a scientific person. I need something tangible. Um, there's all these people that want to poke holes in what it is that they feel, and they feel like they need something that is going to back up their thought process. But then, my response to that is, well, can you see the air in your lungs? Like, you're breathing. Can you see that? It's like, no. But when you were in this mental fog and you were going through that period of time, you were saying you were on this downward slope. And that was very real, very real. And I feel like there's a lot of people today that are struggling because we are in this battlefield that we're experiencing. And it's very profound. I mean, it is a battlefield for our souls, and it is very much of good and evil. And I feel like for people that are questioning, this is really a time that we have to help some of these people and bring some clarity.
I love to put God to the test. I don't like people to go by faith and hope so, because if you are already in a place where you feel that you are under attack and you feel victimized and you feel disempowered, the last thing you need is one more thing not working out. So, what I would advise instead is to reach out to someone who is already in the ascended state, who has already made the journey that you have made, and can open your eyes to all of the ways in which you are being supported. In the beginning, you won't be able to see it. You are still so consumed by fear and pain that you have no room to process the information that's being given to you. So let someone else help you through that phase. Let someone else hold your hand and tell you, I'll be strong for you. You don't have to. We must remember that the divine don't just work through the ethers, although they do that as well. They also work through each one of us. So if you are in a dark space, reach out to somebody who is in a light space and ask them to help you. What we are doing now, we, my angels and myself, we have now created a nonprofit so that we can offer counseling to absolutely everyone who desires it. I just wanted to take away the barrier of price, because I knew that even though I had been doing this counseling work successfully for many years, during COVID, it hit me that, when I was in my darkest place, I could not have afforded me. And that was when I needed me most. So I went back to the divine and said, this doesn't feel good anymore. Even though I have loved this journey and I have grown so much by helping others, I just don't feel good about charging what I need to charge in order for me to be alive, and saying no to so many people or having to work with them for no recompense whatsoever, which makes my livelihood in jeopardy. So where's the middle ground? And they said, just go nonprofit. So now, if you are in a good financial space, yes, you can see me one-on-one, and you will pay a premium price for that. And no matter where you are in the financial reality, you can now join a group session and pay what you can, so that there is no barrier. And those who are doing well are supporting those who are not doing as well. And it becomes this beautiful symbiotic effort where we all lift each other up. But there is always someone who is in the light when you are in the darkness, and they are delighted and honored to help you. You can find them in the library. You can find them on YouTube. You can find them on podcasts such as this. Reach out to these people who have ascended to the light and ask them for support, or just listen to the material that they are creating. Because none of us can hold in that love that we're feeling now that we have gotten past our own darkness. And so we are creating so much material that, that you could go a whole lifetime and just be absorbing that, with the amount of quality and quantity of material that's being produced by those who have gotten past their own darkness. But if you are ready to move forward and you want heart-based counseling, reach out to me. It is now costing you only what you are able to pay. And if you can pay nothing, then we have other ways that you can honor this service. So everyone has something to give. It may not be monetary, and that's okay. but absolutely no one should be denied the support they need if they are ready to move out of the darkness.
Yeah. I think there's so many people are in these spaces that it's kind of like fumbling through right now, because when we were in the pandemic and we were in lockdown, I mean, there were so many parents that had children and they weren't sure exactly what they were doing. They had never experienced this. So they're also parenting through this and trying to guide another human through something that nobody has experienced before. So I feel like, there's been these added layers for a lot of people in this experience. The whole entire world has experienced with this COVID situation and lockdowns, and the list keeps going. But that being said, it is important for us to recognize that we really are in uncharted water as far as our human self on Earth right now. We're seeing technology move faster than lightning speed. I heard recently a statistic actually that if we looked at technology 20 years ago, 10 years ago, more recently, like it would have taken years for things to change. And as of today, I mean, at one point it would have been 10 years and then 5 years. And as of today, technology is changing every 24 hours.
Wow.
And that's faster than what we can even keep up with, our human minds. So it is being forced upon us in a big way for people that are very authentic in their soul self. They feel this energy. They do feel this force field. They do feel it in a profound way, because it does feel like, it is something that's being crammed down our throats in a lot of ways. Um, and truthfully, people who have been through trauma, that's what they experienced, was something that was forced upon them. So I feel guided that this is something that we should talk about, because there are a lot of people that are in awareness, but also trying to find the balance. Like how do I navigate this uncharted water, but also be okay with my true soul self? Do you have any
And I,
words around that?
yes, and I think that it's important that we spend time every day making sure that we are not just grounding, which is sending the energy of the heart down into the earth. And I often tell people to picture it as though you are a tree. So you take your unconditional energy of love and acceptance and you send that down. I always bless the earth and everything in it and on it as I bless the lower chakras. And then as that energy enters the earth, we give that love and acceptance to Mother Earth and spread out as though we are roots. So you just spread out into the earth. And because nothing is ever a one-way street when you are working in the energetic realm, you have shared love and acceptance, and the earth shares with you renewal and regeneration. So, coming up through those roots that you have now planted are renewal and regeneration. So, you pull that up through the whole chakra system into the heart, and you give yourself that sense of well being as you then allow the energy to move up and bless the upper chakras and spread out to become the branches and the leaves on the tree. And I give this energy as a gift of gratitude to the divine, saying, thank you for guiding me, for aligning me, for sharing your love and acceptance with me, for letting me feel safe and purposeful and always, always supported. And so, as that comes down right through the higher self point into my heart, then I know that no matter how much things may change, I have an anchor point. I am a tree grounded in the divine truth. So things can change around me, and yet I never have to be part of the chaos because my angelic helpers are always guiding me. And they have gifted me with so many tools and techniques that will just help me release that which is fearful or hurtful or confusing and receive love, joy, and peace in their place. But they have so many ways to release the negativity and fill up on joy and get rid of the fear and get off the hamster wheel. And no matter what technology may be doing, it's never going to be able to outdo the divine. And we can rest in that place of comfort, knowing that we will be guided through this, no matter which way it may expand.
What I love about what you just said there is that it gives you the power, right? So whether it's technology or something else at the moment in time. So, at one point it was COVID, at one point it was, I don't know, we could fill in the blank, it could be anything. There's generations that have experienced their own fill in the blank, and it just looks different, and we're in different seasons. And of course right now the world is in the season of winter. Winter does not last. There is springtime that always comes. So your analogy of Mother Earth and the tree is just perfect, because with the analogy of seasons and evolving, I mean, it's just spot on. And I think if we can expand our breadth of mind as far as what it is that we may be fearful of, and go inward to your point into the soul self, and use that expansion technique that you just offered, I do feel that it now becomes a faith over fear mechanism where we are armored up and can go fearless and not feel like we have to be in fear, because we have taken our power and used it for good. And that true soul self is at work. And that is where you experience the heart centered joy and love and peace and all of those things that provide the abundance.
But I think it's so important to remember that when you are in alignment with the divine, you step into choice and out of force.
Absolutely.
The divine will never force you, and no one else can force you when you are in alignment, because then you are flowing with all that is. When we were in our victim space or being traumatized, we were forced and we capitulated because we didn't know better. When we are in our aligned state, we understand that we are one with all that is, and we can simply flow around the force instead of having to feel as though we must be in resistance to it. So when you are in alignment, when you are receiving their constant support and guidance, and you are grounded in your divine truth, you recognize that there are many ways to address a situation, and you don't need to just be in resistance because there's only one way. You just simply flow to the way that feels best, as opposed to trying to hold your ground and fight a battle because there's no other way. And I think that's where we kind of get confused with Jesus telling us, turn the other cheek. Jesus is simply saying, instead of being a force, flow. Look for the way that will honor the highest good of all concerned, instead of pulling everyone down by getting in an argument or being insistent or demanding that something be done your way.
Yeah. there's just so much. And the incredible thing about the work you're doing too is this heart-centered space. And a lot of people, especially now, I think are just starting to embrace that we can have conversations about being in our true selves and really embrace the fact that there are so many humans that have gone through trauma, and maybe there's mental health issues, and that was something that was taboo that you couldn't discuss before. But now we're in a space where there's more awareness around it, and there's more conversations being had, and more acceptance of compassion and empathy and helping people. And I think over the recent years, especially, it's been really embraced. And I think it's an incredible gift. But at the same time, there's been a lot of souls that have passed because they weren't able to handle their given situations. I mean, we've seen suicide climb at astronomical rates, addictions, different things that has really taken a toll on people around the globe. And for that, I think that's been hard. But at the same time, we have this new level of awareness, and it feels like it's the right thing to do to talk about it and to really wrap everyone in our arms and just love on them the best we can, to give them as much as we can, to know that they're not alone. I mean, that really is the bottom line, is that love, and you're not alone.
Never. And
Yeah.
what they are bringing to mind right now is that wonderful quote by Carl Jung, because we are confused. We believe the mind is really in charge of us, but there are more neurons moving from the heart to the brain than from the brain to the heart. And the heart is really the overseer of the subconscious. So Carl Jung said, until we make the subconscious conscious, it will control our lives, and we will call it fate. And that's really what we are doing in heart healing, is we are making the subconscious conscious. We are calling out the parts that hurt, bringing them to the light, showing them for what they really are, and releasing them so that you can make choices that are in alignment with your highest good, instead of choices that are based off of fear, based off of I have to, or I will be punished if I do not, which are all really fear choices. But it is giving you the freedom of choice, as opposed to the force of because I said so. And it's interesting to me that so many religions along the way have made God into the because I said so God. And there is nothing about the divine that is because I said so. It's always because I love you, because I see your value, because it is my greatest desire to honor that which would honor you. And that is so far distant from the religious view of God that puts God in a box and says, if you dare to take God out of this box, some punishment would happen to you because you're just not good enough to have a relationship. So I want to encourage everyone to take the divine out of the box. Begin having a personal relationship with them. Begin just by opening your heart and saying, God, let me know that you're here. And you may get a tingly feeling. You may get a message on a billboard. You might have an unexpected phone call or text, or something else may pop up. Be alert and aware. Be open to receiving, but dare to take the divine out of the box and begin having a personal relationship with them.
I love that. I think that's so important and so profound at the same time. So thank you for saying that. Is there anything on your heart that you feel like you need to share, or anything coming to you that maybe you think the world needs to hear right now?
I think the most important thing that they taught me early on in my journey is when you heal your heart, you will transform your life. I didn't understand it when they said to me, just trust that as you heal, your life will transform. But I was sort of out of options. So I was like, okay, I tried everything else and it failed. Why not try this? And I was the most surprised of everyone to see that this was actually true. So I understand if you feel a little hesitant, but if you're out of options, try it. Try opening your heart to the divine and allowing them to heal it, and watch as your life transforms. It will not be an overnight miracle. If you believe it should be, you are limiting yourself and really not honoring the journey. You will learn so much by opening up little by little and expanding little by little and having some successes and some failures as you move along. You don't want the overnight miracle because you will miss out on the journey and the fullness and the truth that you can own by earning it. So open your heart, be prepared for it to roll out, and just be willing to go with it. No matter where the journey takes you, just have fun. And that's the other thing. The angels love to have fun. They are so happy and so wanting you to be happy that they will make the journey joyful.
It's so profound too when you start to go through that process, how you will start to see the miracles and how you're part of that whole interconnected network that has been created, because now you are part of the quote unquote earth angels helping other humans, where before you may not have recognized that.
And I think it's important for everyone to remember that all of us are earth angels. Each time you smile, share a kind word, offer any kind of support to anyone, anywhere, you are operating in the capacity of earth angel. The divine do not limit themselves to energetic activity. They have deliberately denied themselves a body so that we could all be their body and all do their work in our physical form, so we can experience the joy of being as they are. It is so wonderful to share with someone else, and we all get that upwelling of, wow, that was so delightful. And that is just us acting as the divine, because we are all part of the divine. We are the microcosm of the macrocosm. We are not all the divine is, but we all are part of that divine. So we get to be as they are and share as they share.
It's so true. I could talk to you for hours. And I just so appreciate you spending time with me and sharing all of this with the world audience. It's been such a joy. And I always ask one last question of my guests. If I were to pick up your earth angel feather off the ground, what would be your message to the world?
Call it all joy. Take whatever it is that is happening to you or has happened to you and allow it to be your pathway to joy. All of these lessons, all of this that you've experienced, if you allow them, will become your way of serving the world. there is not one experience that I have had that hasn't been useful to me in this work of service that I am doing. So I am so deeply grateful for all of the experiences. And now those experiences combined have given me a life that is overflowing with joy. And without them, I don't know that I would be at this place and experiencing this kind of joy and this delightful life work.
It's truly remarkable. I mean, it's the abundance of joy that you feel when you fully surrender and what you receive. It's really hard to put it into words and articulate it for someone. And I think that's part of what you and I are trying to articulate, but it really is hard to articulate it. And I
It
would
is,
just,
but they're showing me that I've probably given this much, but I have received more than I can possibly contain. And so I look back and if I were to stack up all of the trauma, which was considerable, it probably is this amount compared to what I have received. And so it's just, don't be afraid to approach the divine. Open your heart. You are never going to be turned away. And you are never going to be found lacking.
yeah, yeah. For those of you who cannot see on camera, this much is just super tiny compared
Yeah.
to the vast universe of what is experienced.
It's like one compared to infinity.
There you go. That's a good analogy.
I would almost say zero, but if we had to pick a value, one compared to infinity.
We'll go with that one. That's a good one. Thank you so much for being here. It's been a joy, and I just appreciate you, appreciate your time, and just super grateful. So thank you.
Oh, it has been my greatest honor. And I want again to extend that invitation. If you are hurting anyone, anywhere, please reach out. There is no barrier to entry. If you are ready to leave the darkness behind, we are happy to serve you and honor you and help you begin your journey to joy.
Thank you so much. And for my audience worldwide, thank you so much for being here with me. Truly appreciate it. This is Catherine Daniels with Retreat to Peace, reminding you to live your authentic life with peace. And as always, retreat to peace, and we'll see you next time.